Okay guys, we're finally here. We're finally here. Also, I'm Janet on occasion. Yeah, so, character and unit balancing. That's right, we have the multiplayer patch notes here. I should have done these first, honestly. This is what people really care about. Well, on my channel at least. You know, it's the multiplayer channel, right? We play multiplayer. So, yeah. So, Beastman, first off. Sorry, I'm allergic to beast fur. I know, it sucks because I love Beastmen, but I'm allergic to them. It's not good. But anyway, so here we have Beastman, Malagor, plus 400 mass. That is a lot of mass. And slightly faster, slightly more expensive though, but better melee attack and defense, so more survivable, and isn't going to get knocked over as much, and does more damage generally. So just better. Just a lot better across the board. Slightly more expensive though, which, honestly, for these changes, like, if he doesn't get knocked over as much, you know, I think this is worth it. This seems really quite good. This is a lot of buffs. I think he might be useful. Because a lot of people don't tend to bring him because he's a bit squishy, and you can just bring a Bray Shaman if you want magic, so who cares? So, I like that. Also, that way, you can have a spellcaster, and you can bring Gorbles, because Gorbles are viable again. 200 mass, and plus 5% hit reaction ignore chance, plus 5% knock interrupt ignore chance, and no longer has terrain penalties in shallow water. So that's pretty great. It basically just means he's not going to get knocked over or interrupted as much, so he'll hit stuff more. That's awesome. And the extra mass means he won't go flying as often either. So all that is great. He will still occasionally get knocked flying, but it's definitely far less. If you guys saw from the Everchosen, when Aerocrastic brought a couple of Gorbles, they stood firm and they did a lot of damage. They are very scary now. Yeah, you can't ignore them like you used to. You know, they're not a joke. They will hit stuff and mess stuff up very easily. So yeah, really cool to see. Gorbles have got some love. So I love that. Kazrak, he has 10 armor on his chariot. Fair enough, just a bit more armor, that's fine. Morga, a little bit more mass, so again, he's going to get knocked over so much, but frankly, he doesn't get knocked over a huge amount anyway, Morga. He's pretty stocky, so plus 50 isn't a huge amount. Feral Manticores are cheaper, which I like that. Also, the Gore Herd with dual weapons are cheaper, which makes a lot of sense because, frankly, melee defense is more useful than melee attack in like 99% of situations. So, spending more money to get something that isn't actually as good as one that also has missile resist is just stupid. So, having them cheaper, brilliant. I like that. So now you're actually paying for, you know, you're not having to pay extra just to be more offensive at the cost of a huge amount of defense. So, I like that. I like that a lot. Also, Minotaurs are cheaper, so I like that. Minotaurs with shields, way cheaper. Minotaurs with great weapons, way cheaper. So all Minotaurs are going to be more viable, not because they're better, but because they're cheaper. So expect to see a lot more Minotaurs. I love this change. Razor Gore Herd, minus 50 cost. I think they're already brilliant, so having minus 50 cost, great for me. I love this. I love all of this. I love all of this, in fact. These are all buffs. There's just nothing negative in here. Giant, plus 35 AP melee damage, and plus 15 melee damage, and an extra splash damage target. So basically, they're going to be even better. And I love giants. You know, you've seen me do all the ridiculous dual giant builds on my channel, I'm sure. And so they're just going to be better. Because at the moment, yeah, they're very circumstantial. But this is amazing. I love this. This is great. This is a great addition. So, dwarfs. Belagar's a bit cheaper. Yeah, fair enough. Rune Lord, a bit more expensive. Okay. Grombrindle, much cheaper. Thorgrim, cheaper. So yeah, all the lords seem to be generally cheaper, but the Rune Lord that was picked more than anything is more expensive, which makes sense. If you just look at how often these lords are picked, I can't remember the last time I saw Grombrindle at all, and I see almost nothing but Rune Lords, so this makes a lot of sense. So rather than jiggling with the stats, just, yeah, make them cost appropriate. I like that. The Thane has more melee defense, so be a bit more robust. I like that. Here, Bugsman's Rangers have a little bit less health, which makes sense, I think. Bugsman's Rangers, they've pretty much turned into the go-to ranged unit now. So a little less health per entity. It's going to be slightly easier to kill the models, so they're not going to regenerate through all of the combat. You've got to hit them with such like crazy good stuff to start killing models. They tend to really overperform. So just a little less health, it just means that regen isn't going to be able to keep them going forever. So I like that. I like that a lot. Hammerers, a little bit more health. Good, because Hammerers were a bit crap, to be honest. So them being better, I love that. Peak Gate Guard are the same. Gyro Bombers have more health and more ammo, and so does the Sky Hammer. I like that. That's fun. Don't often see the Gyro Bombers or the Sky Hammer bomber either, because frankly, yeah, you just bring the Brimstone guns 99% of the time, so, you know, that's pretty cool. And Quarrelers are great weapons, plus 2 melee defense. I don't know, like, they're never picked, but that's because why would you need to bother giving great weapons to Quarrelers? Frankly, if they're in melee, then you've lost, you know? You just... It's pointless to have armor piercing in melee on a unit that you never want to be in melee. You know, that is crap in melee. So, I mean, make them a little bit better, sure, but I mean, you're never going to use them in combat like that. So, I don't know. I just don't think there's really a niche for these guys in multiplayer. I never see why you'd want armor piercing in your back line, really. So, you know, for the extra cost. So, I don't know. I mean, potentially against Chaos, but still, you never bring Quarrelers against Chaos. The Quarrels aren't going to do enough damage. You know, you need guns. So that melee, I don't know. It makes no sense to me. The unit existing doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, fair enough. Fine for campaign, though, I guess. So, Greenskins. Skarsnik. 300 mass, which is odd, because I feel like he had a lot of mass anyway. Grimgore plus 600 mass, that's the biggest addition to mass I've seen. He also has more armor and plenty more melee defense, which is great. So with the extra melee defense, he's not going to get dragged down by state troops, like he can be now. And dragons aren't going to be able to keep knocking him over, because he has so much mass. So this is great. This is really good. This could really help him. So, very interested to try him out, see what he's like. Encourage has been added to the Night Goblin Shaman. That was mentioned in previous patch notes, but if you're just here for the multiplayer, it's good that it's mentioned. He didn't have Encourage for some reason. And the Night Goblin Grey Shaman, when he was on a wolf, also didn't have Encourage before. So now they correctly have Encourage. I think this is more of a bug than a, you know, a balance change, but it's good. It's a good thing. Night Goblin Archers are a little bit cheaper. As are the Fanatics version, so I like that. I think they kind of noticed that no one was really bothering to bring Night Goblin Archers when you could just bring the normal Goblin Archers, because who cares if they got shot at from melee? There's always going to be something more important to shoot at than normal archers, so the Stalk didn't really help much. And it wasn't worth paying extra for the poison when you're just going to have a couple of cheap archers with the rusty arrows in most situations anyway. So them being a bit cheaper, I like that. Also, Squig Herds, a bit more health, which is nice, because they are a bit of a one-shot. You kind of throw them at something, and they do some damage on the charge, and then all die. So, that's nice. I like that. Also, the Orc Boar Chariot, plus 4 melee attack. So, it might actually be more worthwhile. It might actually get some more kills, you know, as it trundles through things. So, I might actually have to try this now, because I can't remember the last time I brought an Orc Boar Chariot, frankly. I mean, Teeth Robbers, yeah, because they're funny. But Orc Boar Chariots, I can't remember ever bringing them. So, yeah, I might have to try them now they've a little bit better. Savage Orc Boar Boy Biggins, now truly big Aranada, with plus 5 bonus versus large, but they have minus 2 charge bonus. But that bonus versus large, that's useful. That's going to be pretty good. They'll do more damage and they'll hit more. So, yeah, that's pretty great. Also, Giant, buff for the Giant again. So, Giants across the board seem to be improved. What's crazy, it puts them up to like 600 weapon strength. It's pretty crazy. And with an extra target that they can hit with that, that's an extra 600 damage onto another target too, so that's pretty great. Giants, I think, might be pretty damn good. I think they're going to fill that niche where, you know, I played a load of double Giant builds for a few factions against vampire counts. And some factions could do it, some couldn't. It worked fine for Norska because they also had Vermeer, but the other ones didn't, so it was... yeah, just it was bad. You know, the Giants helped, but they couldn't carry it so much. But I think in that situation, against something like the Vampire Counts, the Giants might actually be viable. They might be enough to actually keep you in the game in those one-sided matches. So that's interesting. I like that. That might help Beastmen and Greenskins against the Vampire Counts. Although I think Greenskins have a pretty even matchup with Vampire Counts generally. But it would be nice to rely on the Giants a bit, because they're fun. Empire, Royal Altdorf Griffites. They're a bit more expensive, but they have more health per entity, which I kind of like, because they do tend to get whittled down far too quickly. Just far too quickly. But with them being more expensive, I'm not really sure, because, I mean, plus 8 health per entity, when they don't have that many entities, that's not actually that much more health. So, but they're still basically an instant pick. I mean, they cause fear and terror. But they have minus 2 charge bonus, which is a bit of a pity. The halberds and, and lances, they all have the same. Oh, no, they don't. Look at that, plus 2 melee defense for the ones with lances, which I like, because these are the anti-infantry ones. You want to get them stuck in and leave them in combat, so they need to be able to be a bit more survivable, because no one brings them, because they're not very survivable. They get stuck in combat with that anti-infantry bonus and then just die. They just get dragged down. So that's nice. Hellblaster Volley Gun is cheaper, which is awesome. Hellstorm Rocket Battery, a lot cheaper. Captains are cheaper. Well, it makes sense. I can't remember the last time I saw a captain, honestly. But they're a bit cheaper. Crossbowmen are cheaper. So that's brilliant, actually, for this patch especially, because crossbowmen are such a great, cheap tool for dealing with Vampire Coast units. You get a load of crossbowmen firing at, you know, any of that fodder, you're going to do really well. So that's great. They're a bit cheaper. Pistoliers have a better charge bonus and better melee attack, which is interesting. So you can kind of rely on them as shock cavalry to some extent now. A little bit, anyway. Witch Hunters have less ammunition, which I guess, you know, stops them just running around the map killing things forever, which is kind of annoying. Great Swords have a bit more leadership, which I like. Halberdiers have a bit more leadership, which I like. These guys should be able to hold firm, you know, they should be able to. Spearmen without shields have a slightly bigger bonus versus large. I'm not sure what the difference is between them and the shielded variant. I don't know if these guys are better against large because they've got 2 hands on their shield. I'm not sure. The Steam Tank, plus 3 bonus versus infantry, and plus 35 AP melee damage, and plus 5 base melee damage. Knights of the Blazing Sun also have some extra damage. Well, it's just AP, actually. They're just better AP, but the general damage stat is going to be the same. So, plus 1 AP and minus 1 base. So, yeah, just better AP values, which I like. It's only a small change, but it's good. But the Steam Tank, I think this is pretty good. Just extra damage. Because, I mean, they are supposed to be good, sort of, trampling infantry and things. And they weren't, really. They'd still get dragged down by pretty much anything. Even with that huge armor, they're still going to get dragged down, but at least they can do some damage before they do. So that's something. That will make them a little bit more viable. So, interesting to see how that works. And also, the Great Cannon is more accurate, which I think is definitely a good idea, especially when they're having to fight things like the Vampire Coast, that have a ton of cannons, and you really want to be able to outduel them. You know, I mean, the Great Cannons cost more than the Carronades, I believe, so you want them to be able to actually be better. So I like that. I like the improved accuracy. We'll have to see how much of a difference that makes. Dark Elves, plus 300 mass on foot for Malekith. Fair enough. I mean, I never really bring him on foot, to be honest, so I'm not sure how often that'll change things. But that's fun. All the sorceresses, cheaper Cold One mount. I like that. I like that a lot. I often bring them on the Cold One mount. I'm not sure why it's cheaper, because it always seems to be my go-to, really. I really like having that armor piercing. She's a nice sort of addition to a duel, you know? When you've got your lord fighting someone, charge her in, and with the armor piercing of the Cold One, she can actually help quite a lot in a lot of situations. So, yeah, it's odd that that's cheaper, but, you know, I guess that's welcome. The War Hydra is cheaper. I think that makes sense. War Hydras suck. There's always better things to bring for that cost. It's too expensive. So the War Hydra is brilliant. Chillisontar is a bit cheaper, and the Frost Breath is no longer flaming, which is interesting. Charybdis has better bonus versus large now, which is pretty cool. And the Feral Manticore is cheaper. The Feral Manticores across the board seem to be cheaper by 100. All the Supreme Sorceresses, the Foot and on Dark Steed is actually way more expensive. Oh, so that's why that's cheaper. So it's actually going to be more expensive generally. It's going to be 100 more expensive, I believe. In total, I think. Wait, no, that's the Supreme Sorcerer. That's just normal Sorceresses. Oh, okay. So the Supreme Sorceresses, actually more expensive generally. But only slightly more expensive on the Cold One, because the Cold Ones generally have been made cheaper. So, okay. And the Dark Pegasus is plus 100 cost. So, yeah, okay, so the mounts, it's cheaper to mount her, basically, now, in relation to a starting cost, I think, is kind of how that works. So, might as well give her a mount, I suppose. Yeah. Doomfire Warlocks, a little bit less health, and they cost more. That's good, because they're crazy good. They are amazing, so, yeah, you need to have to pay for them. Same with Sinesh's Harvesters, again, just, they're so viable. Sister Slaughter, slight tweak, so slightly less offensive. I mean, that's still going to be like, what, like 59 melee attack and, like, I don't know, 800 melee defense? I mean, they're crazy. Anyway, but still, little tweak. Cold One Knights, minus 12 charge bonus. Are you kidding? That's crazy. But they are going to be way better, generally. And I guess with them rampaging, that's actually a buff for them, because they're only going to get one charge off, and then they're probably going to rampage, and they'll be able to rely on these stats to stay in the fight. So that's actually really good. That's actually a nice change. I like that. They're going to be really good, I think, now, because plus 8 melee attack is pretty substantial. The Dread Knights, similar thing has happened, but not as extreme. So they're still going to be better on the charge, by the looks of it. But, yeah, still good melee stats, which is nice. Knights of the Evenclaw, again, same changes as the Dread Knights. And all the Shades have a little bit more health, which I kind of like, because often they lose a missile duel. I know they're kind of hybrid things, but also you don't want them just dying. And if you do get them in combat, everything just has better melee attack than they do. And it just, well, melee stats generally, if they're a melee unit. So Shades tend to get beaten up a lot. They have very little health, so they just lose models very quickly and lose combat effectiveness very quickly. So that's a nice change. I quite like that. Shades will be a little bit more robust. So I want to see how they perform attacking stuff now. So, High Elves next. The Fireborn are going to be cheaper, but they have less physical resist. So that's interesting. That is interesting. So Dragon Princes. So, I mean, it was becoming a trend. People would just bring the cheaper cavalry. Because you bring a lot more of it, and people were just bringing stuff to negate the physical resistance, so Dragon Princes and Fireborn were getting kind of nuked pretty quickly, especially by big spells as well. It was very tough, so it's hard to warrant the huge cost. So being a bit cheaper, I think, is a good thing, even if they've got a bit of a debuff, because this is something that certainly in competitive games, it just gets ignored anyway. People just bring things to deal with this, so yeah, I think that works. I think to make them a bit cheaper. I like that. Silver Helms, they all have better charge bonus. I like that. Handmaiden is cheaper. Good. I like that. Increased projectile speed, projectile penetration. So, yep, she'll be able to skewer more things, but she's a bit cheaper, which is good, because I always found she's a bit expensive, frankly. Sisters of Avalon, plus 2 AP, but minus 2 missile base. So, just more AP. Now. It'll be more armor-piercing damage in relation to their usual damage. So pretty cool. They already had pretty good AP, so an extra plus 2 is going to be pretty devastating. The Everqueen's Court Guards, same thing has happened to them. The Grey are cheaper, which is awesome, because I really like the Grey. So that's nice. The Storm Riders, also cheaper. That's the so the Grey are the Shadow Warriors, Regiment of Renown, that have Snipe. So they can be shooting and they're still not seen, which is awesome. The Storm Riders, they're the Loathen Sea Guard that can fire while moving. So very rare you need to use them, so having them a little bit cheaper just incentivizes you testing them out, really. Tyrion is a little bit more expensive, has lost some melee attack, but has a ton of AP damage now, which is awesome. So less damage overall, but frankly, when another 90 of it is guaranteed damage on a hit, that is beautiful. So Tyrion is really, really deadly now. And here, Alariel on her Eagle has lost a load of melee attack, which is a good thing, because she used to just be able to snipe people out with that huge charge bonus. She was just land, hit someone, and swan off. Well, Eagle off, I suppose. So, yeah, definitely the debuff to a melee attack was worthwhile, I think. On the Eagle, anyway. So, Elithanar is more accurate and has better penetration, so he's going to be better at shooting at sort of elite things and shooting through a load of ranks. So I like that. That's a nice change. And Elithanar is actually pretty useful against Vampire Coast, as I found out. So he's definitely got a place in multiplayer now, even if it is just for that one matchup. But yeah, so I like that. I like that. That's nice. He'll be a little bit better for chunking down things like Depth Guard and stuff. The Terranok Chariot didn't have martial prowess, so they've lowered their melee defense generally to counter that. Ithalmar Chariot, again, didn't have martial prowess. I did not realize these two didn't have martial prowess. It never dawned on me. But so these guys are going to be way better, frankly. They're going to have way more defense. So it's going to be a lot easier to sort of charge them in. And if they get a little bit bogged down, it's not the end of the world. They won't get dragged down quite so quickly. So they'll be a little bit more resilient. So I like that. I like that a lot. So, Bretonia, Blessed Field Trebuchet is cheaper, as is the normal Trebuchet, as is Alberic, which is good because all these three things are a bit crap, so no one brings them. So them all being cheaper is nice. The Fey Enchantress, the direct damage aura deals less damage now, which I guess kind of makes sense. She could, as long as you had sort of Grail Guardians and things surrounding her, she could just sit in combat for hours. And yeah, that aura would just kill so much stuff, especially because she can just sit there and use healing, on herself and the things protecting her quite a lot. It was pretty tough. She was like a Bretonian mortis engine, except that's with, cavalry charges and a crap load of archers shooting into everything. So it's, yeah, it was pretty crazy. So yeah, I think that makes sense. It's only 20%, so it's not a huge debuff, but I think that was warranted. The Lord is cheaper. Standard Bretonian Lord, because no one brings a standard Bretonian Lord, there's no point. So them being a bit cheaper, yeah, that might make them worthwhile. Foot Squires, slightly more expensive, which I think is a pity, because I think Foot Squires are in quite a good place, but they're a little bit more expensive now. The Green Knight has had a couple of buffs to make him a bit more viable, because he's very expensive but very situational, so, it's nice that he's got a bit of a buff. Battle Pilgrims have extra melee defense, so they're going to be a little bit more survivable. They were incredibly glass cannony, so, if there's anything that was half decent at killing Battle Pilgrims, the Battle Pilgrims would die immediately. So just being a little bit harder to kill in melee would be nice. Same thing with the Holy Wardens of Le Mazontal, so that's good. So, on to Lizardmen. There's a few changes on the Lizardmen here, but mixed ones, you'll see. So, Cold-Blooded now stops Rampage and gives plus 16 leadership. So it's a huge leadership buff that'll stop Rampage. So, all of your rampaging things like Feral Stegodons and stuff like that were really expensive, and often, alright, use Dwarfs as the example. A couple of hits from a unit of Trollhammer torpedoes and they'd Rampage. And then they'd be stuck in the front line fighting miners, just not getting any, effective damage in, just no good cost efficiency. Now, you can just stick a Cold-Blooded on them, they'll stop rampaging, you know, for a duration. Have some extra leadership, so they're not going to rout off as quickly, and then they can charge into those Trollhammer torpedoes and teach them a lesson. So that's kind of cool. So it gives you more tactical options there. But it no longer has max uses, so you can keep using it. It'll just keep coming back. It doesn't put stat penalties on anymore, so, you know, and another healing either. Basically, it's a totally different thing. So the stat penalties that it got while it healed to sort of mean that you can't just heal stuff in combat doesn't matter anymore because there's no healing, so you don't have the stat penalties. It just stops rampage. So it's interesting because Cold-Blooded in the tabletop was never meant to heal stuff, so it kind of makes more sense. So Cold One Riders added Primal Instincts ability. So cool. I forget which one that is. Isn't that something that Beastmen have? Anyway, I can't remember. Plus 50%, not 50%, 50 multiplayer cost. Less charge bonus, more melee attack, more melee defense, more AP, and more base melee damage. So basically, a little bit worse on the charge, but generally a lot better. And they have this ability that I can't remember what it does. I've got a feeling that's the one that gives them perfect vigor so long as their leadership is high or something. I can't remember. I think Primal Fury. I can't remember. Anyway, I'll have to check that. So, 50 cost, though, for all of that. And they are worse on the charge. But that'd be a lot better getting stuck in and damaging stuff. So I like that a lot. Because usually you do use them to pin things down. You kind of use them to surround a big target and wail on them with their anti-large. That's the sort of thing you tend to do, you know. Actually, the Spear Riders are the anti-large ones. But anyway, use them to bog stuff down. So just having better melee attack in general, they can just sit there and hold. You don't have to rely on cycle charging. So that I like that. Cold One Spear Riders added Primal Instincts ability, the one that I don't know what it is. Whoops. Less charge bonus, more melee attack, more melee defense, more AP. So it's a similar thing. And Horned Ones, pretty much the same. Again, just less charge for all of the Cold Ones, but better stats in general. The Feral Cold Ones, again, less charge, way better stats. Way better stats for the Feral Cold Ones. This is a pretty big boost, actually, because these used to be sort of a one-shot thing. Like, you just charge them in, they get damaged immediately, rampage, and slaughtered. So now, just them being a bit more resilient, a bit more, well, only a tiny bit more resilient, but they get more work done against armored targets, which I like. And yeah, I mean, that's plus 6 damage per hit. And 4 of that is AP, so that's pretty huge. That's a pretty huge bonus, especially when they can hit more with better melee attack. But, of course, that's not going to make up for the lack of the charge bonus for the initial engagement. But still, I like that. I think that puts them in a better place. Croxagores, better AP, and better base damage. So that's cool. They're just going to hit harder, generally, which I think is definitely worthwhile. Because they didn't used to get a lot of killing done, despite being giant, crocodiles, which was weird. Skink Skirmishers, better missile damage, which is fun. I like that. So people might bring these guys instead of chameleon skinks every time. The Saurus Skull Veteran on a cold one is 100 cheaper, so that is brilliant. Sotek's going to love this. So nice and cheap Lord there. Love that. Ancient Stegodon, better bonus versus infantry, and is slightly cheaper. So yeah, another nice change. Just makes the big stuff a bit more viable. Stegodon. So there's a normal Stegodon, plus 3 bonus versus infantry, and slightly cheaper. Of course, that's the one with the ballista, so usually you're using it sort of an artillery piece while the, units are approaching, but it's nice they can get stuck in the front line too, with a slightly better bonus versus infantry, and slightly cheaper. The Feral one, as we discussed before. Nice little bonus, it's cheaper, and you can stop it rampaging now. So the Feral stuff, I mean, that's brilliant that it's not going to rampage. I love that. Carnosaurs have better melee attack, which is good. So they can lock onto, big targets like dragons and stuff a little bit more successfully now. I like that. Skink Chiefs on the Stegodon, Ancient Stegodon, 100 cheaper, which is very, very nice indeed. The Skink Priests, again, cheaper mounts. All the big dinos are cheaper, which is great. Because at the moment, you basically just bring a massive wide army of, like, some Temple Guard, some, occasionally cold ones, but you don't tend to rely on the big dinos. This is just giving more excuses to bring the dinosaurs. I love it. So, Bastillodon with Revivification Crystal is cheaper, which is good, because they need more healing, so this is more useful. But, yeah, you need it, but it's not going to be overkill bringing it, because you're not going to have other healing, apart from Apotheosis. So, the lack of other healing, this is more vital, and so they have to make it cheaper. Because it's not just, adding another layer of healing to make things especially awkward, it's just filling a niche that needs to be filled. So, I like that. I like that. So, Mazdamundi on Zlak now uses the Ancient Stegodon weapon strength. I don't know if that's a nerf or not, but he does have a lot more health on the Palanquin, so that's good. The Slan Mage Priests, they all have better melee defense and health. Saurus Spearmen actually have better melee defense now, and with shields, the same. And Saurus Warriors in general have slightly better melee attack, +1, and Temple Guard have more health now, +2 per entity. So that's actually quite a big buff. I know it's only +2, but you know, per model, that's going to add up. You know, that's gonna keep them alive a lot longer, I think. So that's kind of cool. So, vampire counts. Weirdly, very little. I guess everything else has been added. Is new stuff entirely. These are just changes. So, Strigoi Ghoul King on foot is cheaper, but of course he's now competing with the Strigoi Vampire Lord that does the same thing but a lot better, so they have to make him a lot more expensive than the Strigoi Ghoul King, or what's the point? But amazing that's only on foot. On the Terrorgeist he's the same price, but the Strigoi Vampire Lord is like 500 more, I think. So, yeah, it makes sense to make him cheaper. Helmand Gorst has more health on his corpse cart. Yay! Fine. I'd never think he's gonna see combat in multiplayer. He's just not very good. But I mean, he's got more health, so that's something. Vampire Lord on a Nightmare has more armor now, so I like that. The Devils of Schwarzhafen now have slightly better melee attack, which is very worthwhile, I think. Because yeah, Vargeist, they're very niche picks, so it would be nice if they get more killing done because they're very fragile. So them swooping in and getting a lot of killing done and then leaving before anything, you know, that could beat them up turns up. That's nice. I like that. So extra melee attack. Terrorgeist. Less charge bonus on the Terrorgeist. So far, the Terrorgeist has had nothing but a nerf this patch. But it's pretty tiny at -2 charge bonus. But it means that cycle charging isn't going to be quite as effective, but you might not even tell the difference in most battles, to be honest. Khan Wraiths, better melee attack, and... oh, nope, that's Cryptoris. Khan Wraiths do have better melee attack, which I think is good, because their melee attack is pathetic. Just really bad, especially in Warhammer 2, where everyone just brings spearman lines, which will have great melee defense. It just means it's impossible for them to hit anything. I mean, a lot of the elite infantry as well has really good melee defense, especially things like the High Elves with all their, you know, martial prowess and stuff. Khan Wraiths just can't hit anything, so extra melee attack is definitely worthwhile. I like that. Crypt Horrors have better melee defense, so they can be a little bit more survivable, which is good. I would like to see more changes to the Crypt Horrors. I still think they suck, which is a shame. But yeah, they might be good in some niche situations. The Mortis Engine, again, with the aura dealing 20% less damage. So same as the Fey Enchantress, just the direct damage aura doing less damage across the board, which I think is worthwhile. It's a little bit nuts, but I mean, you've got to be in combat to make it happen, so you've got to put yourself at risk. So it's risk-reward, but the reward was a little bit too high, you know, considering the quite small risk, because it can zip around. It's pretty zippy, that thing. So the Warriors of Chaos. Kolek increased projectile intersection radius to 0.95. What? I don't know, guys. I don't know. He gets shot more? I don't know. He's got less armor too, and he is more expensive. It makes sense. Kolek is a bit of a champ, you know, so I guess that makes sense. I guess him maybe getting hit by projectiles easier, having a little bit less armor and more expensive. I guess he can get, you know, dragged down by a lot of missile fire a bit better now, which I think makes sense, I guess. He's still got the missile resist, so, you know, we'll see how that balances out. Archaon is a little bit more expensive. I know, Archaon's crap though, right? No, he's not. He's got mad AP now. He has 145 extra AP. It is at the cost of some base damage, but base damage is not worth half as much as this, because if something's got 100 armor, then between 50 and 75% of the damage is going to get negated. So if you're fighting anything with 100 armor, which is most other lords that Archaon's going to be fighting, that's going to be 100 lower. Right? That's going to be somewhere... well, it's going to be between 50 and 100 damage, that'll do. And that guarantees 150 damage. So you see what I mean? This is just so much better for Archaon, for dueling powerful stuff. So that's amazing. That's really good. So I don't care that he costs a bit more. He's a spellcaster and now a great duelist. So that's awesome. I love this. He's going to be a lot better. So we did see him fight a giant crab in a recent video. He was fighting Silostra. But yeah, he's great. I love him. I think he's really good. Sigvold, extra missile block chance. Fair enough. I guess extra armor and leadership. I mean, fine, it's just buffs because no one brings Sigvold. So him just being better in a few things, yeah, it might help him get a bit more on the level of everyone else. Dragon Ogres are slightly cheaper, which is awesome because Dragon Ogres are my favourite. Feral Manticore, much cheaper, just like all the other Feral Manticores in the other rosters. And the Chaos Giants, yes, all the same buffs as everyone else got. Also, Swords of Chaos. Actually, you can even tell it's the same as all of them because they clearly just copied and pasted that from higher up in the patch notes where it said Giant, because they didn't get rid of Giant. So they put Chaos, not Giant. Oh, where are those stats? And copied and pasted it. So yeah, all the Giants have that now. Swords of Chaos. So that's the Regiment Round Chaos Knights. And also Archaon's Bodyguard. They have better AP as well. at the cost of normal base damage. But who cares? AP is so much more valuable. And then Chaos Knights, more AP. So, cool. Chaos Knights are a little bit better now, which I like. As is Sigvold, just more armor piercing. Because Chaos kind of struggled against a lot of armor sometimes. It's a bit weird. If it's large stuff, then fine. And you guys can go, no. Maybe they're alright against armor. It just seems like Lords and Heroes are tough to deal with. Because they'll just swoop in, hit a load of stuff, and then swan off again. Or dragon off, whatever. So, Wood Elves. Wildwood Rangers, minus 50. Cost. Good, because they're just useless. They're too fragile. They are far too fragile. Every army, all of their cheapest stuff can kill all the Wildwood Rangers. You have to get them onto elite stuff. Elite armored units. Preferably armor-piercing units, so they, because they don't rely on their armor, really. But anyway, they're so fragile. You've got to get them into combat, and they'll just get killed before they get into combat by basically anything. Spells, or arrows, or guns, or a cavalry charge. They just die. They're just so flimsy, so you can never really bring them. It's just bad. It sucks. I know, but yes, them being cheaper, it's a start. I think they need a lot more help, though, because they just don't work. They're countered harder by a lot of things that you use to counter the Wood Elves in general. So, at that point, what are they for? So, War Dancers, Regiment of Renown. Minus 50 cost. I'm assuming that's the Loix Tricksters. They're a bit cheaper, which is nice. The Wardens of Scythrol, which are the Wildwood Rangers Regiment of Renown, they're actually more expensive, which is interesting, because these guys did have the bonus of being stalking, so archers and stuff couldn't kill them. They could also vanguard, so you could hide them somewhere and you could actually, get them to a target, whereas the Wildwood Rangers can't. Maybe just give all of these guys stalk, and then come up with something extra fun for the Wardens of Scythrol. I mean, I guess they got anti-large, but still, yeah, just, I don't think that's enough, personally. I just don't see these guys getting action. But anyway, Waywatchers, less ammo. Waywatchers ROR. Less cost, but less ammo. So I guess that makes sense. You really want to make sure that ammo counts on a unit like Waywatchers. So less ammo, I think is good. It just means you have to be even more careful to get value out of them. The Way Stalker has actually had quite a few buffs. Much better in combat, in melee combat, which I like. I kind of like that, because it used to be you just use him to shoot things a lot, and you can never really rely on him to do anything else. So he was just an invisible dude in a corner. It was just frustrating for everyone involved. The Treeman, though, yep, huge amount more AP, which is really good, honestly. I think he should be able to compete with some armoured things now, especially because there's so much heavily armoured stuff from Warhammer 2, all the big dinosaurs and knights and things. Yeah, you just want to be able to fight that stuff, so I like that. The Ancient Treeman, again, similar thing, more AP damage. Sisters of the Thorn, they have plus 100 cost, and their physical resistance has gone down a bit, so much more expensive, the Sisters of the Thorn. Norska, Feral, wow. Okay, Norska have had a lot of changes. The Feral Mammoth has increased acceleration, so better on the charge. A lot less mass, weirdly. Less melee attack. Less AP. A huge bonus versus infantry, so I guess it'll just be better against infantry, but worse against everything else. Better base melee damage, and a lot more targets. So this is good. So it can hit 4 extra people as it charges in, and 2 collision attack max target cooldown. Reintroduce. Okay, so basically it does collision damage too. So it looks like it's lost damage across the board and stuff here, but actually once it charges in, the impact will do damage as well as its attacks. So that's why you can see it just melt stuff now. So that's really cool. That is really cool. I like that. That is a net gain for mammoths, frankly. But I think the less mass, I think it just means that they can get like shot a bit more. Like cannons will make them flip out a bit more. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, that's fine. That's just mammoths are better. War mammoth, again, mammoths are better. That's what it means. Just, yeah, the collision attack, max target cooldown, introduced, it's the collision damage. So that makes them hugely good on the charge. They will actually just stampede and crush things, which is what we want mammoths to do. Same with the War Shrine. Same thing's happening again. Soul Crusher, which I think is that's the Regiment of Renown War Mammoth War Shrine, I think. Again, same thing. Mammoths just crush shit now, which is awesome. And sorry I swore, but I'm very excited about this. It's about time they did this, and I want mammoths to be good, because I can't remember the last time I brought one. No, I can't actually remember, because I just know they suck. So, but now they don't. Now they crush things really well. Wulfric on a mammoth. Same thing. Same thing. So all of this is mammoths. I thought this was a lot of patch notes on Norska. It's not actually that many changes. It's just they have a lot of different mammoths that no one ever saw. And more on Chieftain. That's another mammoth. Okay, so all 6 mammoths are now better. And manticores are cheaper, just like every other one. For me, as great weapons, they're a bit more expensive, which I think makes sense, because they're kind of a go-to in almost every matchup. They are your anti-large, and anti-hero, and anti-lord, and anti-ghost. Anti-everything, frankly. They're a bit too good for their cost. I mean, you've got, with the heavy armor, you've got to focus them down with good AP stuff. And a lot of the time, your good AP stuff is the stuff that these guys can counter. So it makes it really tough. Skin Wolves, cheaper. Good, because Skin Wolves, too flimsy. For me, I have all the armor. Skin Wolves do not. So Skin Wolves just don't perform as well as the Familiar. They have the anti-large, but they just die too quickly to too many different kinds of units, which is a shame. So having a bit cheaper is good. Marauder Berserkers, less defense. Brutes the Hound, less defense. So a bit more glass cannony. I think that's a good move, because they're a bit too survivable, given how much damage they could do. Especially with all their, you know, stacking buffs that give them physical resist, and then they rampage at the end, all that nonsense. Marauder Champions with great weapons have better melee defense, though, which is good, because they're very expensive. You want them to be able to survive a bit more than they do. Norscan Giant, same thing as all the other giants. They're better now. Frostworm, breath is no longer flaming damage. Okay. Marauder Hunters with axes. Increased projectile mass for more knockbacks. So that's kind of cool. I like that. That differentiates the axes and the javelins a bit more. Because usually you're attacking large targets, and the anti-large bonus is kind of, you know, the bonus you would get for the AP normally on a lot of those targets. They kind of behave the same, because you're usually attacking the same things with them. So, but now you can knock stuff a bit more, which I think makes sense. It's an axe being flung at you. That's gonna set you back a bit. So that's a nice change. A little more thematic than balancy, in my opinion. But it will make them a little bit better, so that's cool. Skaven, Clan Rat Spearmen are cheaper. Clan Rat Spearmen with shields are cheaper. Clan Rats are cheaper. Clan Rats with shields are cheaper. Clan Rats are cheaper. Awesome. So, Deathglow Bombardiers, they are cheaper and have more ammunition, as do the Poison Globadiers, which I think is good, because Skaven need to rely on these sort of heavy-hitting things, and often it's too difficult to warrant the price. You usually just bring more Warp Lightning cannons. Yeah, so, because, well, they have a lot better range, you know, it's difficult. These guys will get run over if things can get close, so it's a bit of a gamble bringing them. You want to be a bit cheaper. But if you can keep them safe, they can shoot for longer now, which is pretty cool. Warp Fire Throwers are cheaper, so again, they kind of suck, so just make them cheaper. That's what, $650 now they're going to cost? I think they were $700 before, so that's nice. Hellpit Abomination, more AP, more base, and the Summoned Skaven Slaves Spears now have Scurry Away and Strength in Numbers abilities, which is interesting. So they'll run away quicker, which means they might come back before they dissolve? I don't know. But Strength in Numbers does actually give them, it's sort of like it's kind of like martial prowess, frankly, for Skaven, which is often ignored. It's when they're above 50%, they get some stat bonuses, which makes sense. So I like that, So they're going to be a little bit better, because frankly, these, if you had a load of stuff nearby that could kill a Hellpit Abomination, these guys would summon, and they'd just shatter immediately, because they'd see everything that killed the Hellpit Abomination, so they had no hope. So they just shatter immediately. Warlord, the Rat Ogre Bonebreaker, now has a lot more health, so that's fun. He might be a bit more viable. Quick Head Taker has plus 19 bonus to infantry. That is crazy. I don't know what his current bonus is then, because that is ludicrously high. And Stormville with Halberds have better melee attacks. They can be a little bit more killy, which is nice. They'll hit more, which is good, because the Halberds do attack quite slowly, so that's good to see. So nice change of Skaven. Just generally stuff is cheaper or better. One or the other. Mostly cheaper though. So that's good. That's good. Because yeah, I think cheaper is better than better. If you know what I mean. Because it's Skaven. You just want hordes of random crap, right? You don't have to just choose between a lot of expensive stuff. You want to be able to bring like a bit of everything. Because it's Skaven and they're fun like that. Tomb Kings. The Screaming Skull Catapult are a little bit cheaper. I like that. It's a fun niche pick. I had a beautiful match once. It wasn't worth casting, I don't think. But I was experimenting with the Screaming Skull Catapult. I managed to get this firing at a unit of Grail Knights. And I hit the Grail Knights with a couple of other things. I think I got them with a Doom and Darkness. And I hit them with a Spirit Leech as I charged them from 2 different directions with just cheap skeleton archers, like skeleton horsemen, I think. It was absolutely pathetic. But yeah, they got to about, I don't know, 60% health and then ran. And so I was able to just chase a unit of Grail Knights off the battlefield, because all of those, you know, debuffs from leadership. So Screaming Skull Catapults, they are interesting, you know, but no one tends to bring them. So a little bit cheaper, and I think we might see some more fun synergies like that. Casket of Souls, increased projectile accuracy. which I like. You know, casket souls, again, is too fragile to risk, usually, especially when you have better artillery in the form of Ushabtu great bows most of the time. Katep, yep, more accurate on the casket souls, and Cetra actually gets a bit more melee defense on the Chariot of the Gods, which I like. That's a bit more survivable. That seems to be a trend with some of the chariots in this patch. The chariots are a little bit more survivable. They can't get dragged down so easily if they do get caught out, but I think with a lot of things having extra mass now, it makes more sense that they need to be able to survive a bit more in combat. So the Necrosphinx has a bit more health, as does the Sphinx of Usekf. So, oh no, that has less health, in fact. Okay, so they made the Necrosphinx a bit more like its Regiment Renowned cousin, I guess. So fair enough. I'm not entirely sure how big a change that's going to be for either of them, but it's a change. Sepulchral Stalkers now have +1 melee attack, and their projectiles actually deal a bit more AP damage now. Same with the Regiment Renowned counterpart, the Eyes of the Desert. So that's interesting, just a little bit better, which I like, because they're quite cool units, you know. So, Battle Abilities Balancing. Oh my god, how much more have we got? Oh, we're nearly done. Oh my god. This has only taken me 2.5 hours, I think. The dreaded 13th spell. Summoned Storm Vermin now have Scurry Away and Strength in Numbers abilities. So that's cool. So I guess it's just summoned just generally didn't have that stuff. So it's nice to know they get that. But I still don't think I'm going to be bringing this spell often, truth be told. I just don't often bring Law of Ruin, which is a shame. Soul Rain, which I think is... I don't know, what are these ones? Are these Soul Rain, Soul Storm, and Soul Torrent? They're all the Black Arc ones, right? So they all do more damage. So that's fun. The Venom Staff, which is Khalida's staff, increased AP explosion damage by 18, so that's fun. Makes her a little bit more viable. I really like that, actually. It's kind of like a, I don't know, like a mortar cluster bomb thing. It's awesome. Skarsnik's Prodder. Oh, same thing as the Venom Staff, because I guess they're very similar. So there we go. There you are. Comet of Cassandora that actually does more AP explosion damage now. And upgraded does a lot more AP explosion damage. So that's going to be a lot better for killing big elite stuff. Which is good, because, I mean, it's an expensive spell. You want it to be able to just crush a unit of Chosen or something for you. But at the moment, yeah, they shrug it off a lot. So I like that. I like that. Flame Storm now drags entities towards it rather than pushing them away. Wow, it was actually defending people from it. That's really unfortunate. So now it doesn't. Flame Storm might be pretty damn useful. So we'll see that. Vambrances of the Sun now applies -22 flame weaknesses. I'm not sure whose that is. The Vambrances of the Sun. Vambraces of the Sun. Is that, I want to say that's Cetra's thing. Or at least one of the Tomb Kings thing. Because I don't use Tomb Kings often, so I always forget what their things are called. I've got a feeling that's what that is. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, but I guess it didn't used to do that. I thought it was supposed... I don't know. Anyway, that's something, guys. That's something. Shield the Old Ones. Replace the 44% magic resistance with a 22% ward save, which I really like. Although it's a weird one, because, I mean, it was really nice to have the Shield of the Old Ones and then a Banishment, right? Or then a Ruination of Cities. It negated a lot of the friendly fire, which now it kind of doesn't. So now you have to use it more defensively in general. So the extra ward save means that, yeah, if they're hitting you with a spell and you're in combat, then you're taking less damage from the spell, and you're taking less damage from the combat, rather than just taking less damage from the spell. So, I mean, it's kind of cool. It just means you can use it in more instances, basically, which is kind of fun. Anyway, Pearl of Infinite Bleakness does +8 leadership. Again, I'm assuming that's a Dark Elf thing, because it sounds edgy. So yeah, Dark Mail, that's Kazrax. Changed to a passive self buff, active in melee, that adds +24 armor and +22 magic resistance. Oh, interesting. Huh. Okay. Novel. Okay, so more armor, which is odd, they have to activate it. He just puts it on, and then it gets a bit hot, so he takes it off for a bit, until he cools down, and then when the cooldown's done, he puts it on again. Maybe, who knows. Lance Formation. -12% charge speed, -12% acceleration, -12% deceleration. So it's made the Lance Formation, it's added some debuffs to it, because at this point it's kind of pointless having your guys in anything but Lance Formation, because it just had attack stat buffs, you know. So that's something, I guess. So, yeah. So make that a little less silly. 100 Champions, now -1 melee defense. So 100 Champions, now even bigger debuff, which is good. Because 100 Champions is really awesome, so we wanted that to be good. That's Wulfric's ability, of course. Regrowth. It's removed the physical resistance and replaced it with 100% Vigor, which is interesting. So you can reinvigorate people. So regrow their, you know, aching muscles, I guess. I like that. That's an interesting change. That is an interesting change. Also, regrowth upgraded, again, does the exact same thing. Shield of Thorns replaced the missile resistance with 22% physical resist. So it was 44, now it's 22. So this seems to be a homogenization effort to make things less situational, which I think is kind of a nice thing. It makes things sort of a bit more useful in more situations, which I like. So like here where it's 44% magic resistance, it used to be 44% missile resistance for Shield of Thorns. I believe, anyway. I'm pretty sure that was it. So now it's physical resistance. So it'll be still good against missiles, but also good against other stuff. So I like that. And oh no, the duration's been reduced. Oh, see, that's a shame, because generally I don't tend to bring Shield of Thorns as a spell. That's just a thing that I have on my Sisters of Thorn. So, you know. And upgraded, which I don't think I've ever used. Yeah, it's reduced cost, reduced duration, and yeah, physical resisting again. Ballistics calibration, which is of course the spell, well, the ability that the dwarf engineers have. So reduced duration a bit. Because that's pretty huge, honestly. Anyway, Curse of the Bad Moon. Contact effect now reduces melee defense rather than melee attack. Okay, so it makes things more easy to kill, which I kind of like, because that's less of a bad thing for your goblins, because you expect your goblins to die, but it means that they can kill things quicker, even if they get hit by the friendly fire and end up dying quicker. They're going to get hit anyway, because they're goblins, and they suck. So, just allowing melee defense is kind of fun, so I like that. I like that a lot. Gore Fix It changed minus 24 movement speed to minus 48 movement speed. So huge debuff to speed, which I think will actually make this very, very worthwhile. No longer affects vigor though, and it does increase the duration too, which is very nice. The melee attack. Yeah, so reduced the melee attack increase. I know, sounds weird. Usually it would give you plus 26 melee attack across the board. They've changed it to plus 20, because frankly, plus 26 on a 20 stack is stupid. It was too much. It was very thematic and very fun, but it was too much. 20 is still high, but a little bit more manageable. So it doesn't turn goblins into killing machines quite in the same way. So I like that. I like that. It just streamlines it a bit, makes it a little bit more, you know, fair, frankly. Scarecrow Banner, that increased morale penalty for flying units from -4 to -8. Fair enough, because whoever noticed that do anything, let's be honest. Light of Battle. Added 40-meter effect radius, reduced cooldown to 22 seconds, and +1 power cost. Light of Battle is the high magic one that I never use, I think? Or is that the... Yeah, I think that's the one, right? Can't remember. Can't remember that spell, which is crazy. I don't know how I can't remember that spell. There's some that I just never think to use at all, because they needed buffing, just like this has done. So, yeah. Anyway, upgraded, increased the duration, and it's cheaper. So, Glittering Robe, so Law of Metal. Removed morale increase, increased armor bonus to plus 60. Interesting. And duration's been reduced. So basically this is... Glittering Robe is the exact same thing as Flesh to Stone now. By the looks of it. Which is interesting. Upgraded, yeah, no morale increase, and increased armor by 60, and duration reduced to 4? 44, hang on. Remove morale. These look like the same thing to me, except that just says 4, reduced to 4 for upgrade, which is clearly wrong. So I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on here, but Glittering Robe is different. It does armor instead of morale now, so that's fine. Rune of Hearth and Home increased effect range to 45 meters. So that's good. So that's that makes people immune to psychology, if I recall. So that's nicer. So that's for the Rune Lord. Yeah, that's good. Oh, and Rune Smiths actually have Hearth and Home, do they? Or do they not? I can't remember. I'm bad with names. I shouldn't be doing these patch note videos. I don't know anything. Destroyer. So that is the sword that Malekith has. Now adds only plus 15 ability recharge per 90 seconds. Yeah, that was a bit ridiculous. Like plus 30 every 60 seconds or something ridiculous. Actually, I think it was plus 90, but still. It was ludicrous. You just sometimes could never get a spell off, and he'd kill you before you could do anything, and before anyone could help. Because you'd have something coming to try and help, and they wouldn't be able to proc the abilities, because Destroyer would proc again, and it was just crazy. So yeah, 15 seconds, fine. That's in line with Luther Harkon's ability recharge abilities. So, that's good. Cursed Blade fixed the reapplication of the direct damage. So, okay, so that got fixed again. That's Hellebron's thing. This kept, I don't know, yo-yoing between people thinking it was fine and broken so many times. I can't keep track. Fine, it's fixed, and can we move on with our lives, please? Because I've had enough of hearing about this thing. Because I have no idea where it's at right now. But apparently it's fixed, so let's never speak of it again. Heart of Avalon now activates when Tyrion goes below 20% health. I think it was 15 before. I think it's to, I don't know. I think it was quite easy sometimes to just hit him really, really, really hard and he'd die. And his corpse would fall to the ground. And then the Heart of Avalon would activate. And it wouldn't bring him back from the dead. So, yeah, sometimes he can take too much damage too quickly and it won't proc, which is very funny. But also, this means it won't happen quite so often, which is probably for the best, because that thing is supposed to stop him from dying. So anyway, Crown of Domination increased effect radius to 55, so that's cool. So that's Archaon's immune to psychology radius effect for his unit, so that's really nice. Transformation of Kadon, the Manticore unbinds a lot slower, and it's cheaper, which is good, because this was sort of a waste. It was very rare that this would be worthwhile from the lore of beasts summoning a Manticore. But anyway, Tomb Swarm, reduced direct damage by 25%. Fair enough. Death Frenzy, increased duration to 28. Death Frenzy upgraded, increased duration to 2. Again, this doesn't quite add up here. I feel like they've chopped this wrong. Anyway, Skitterleap now has a 40-meter radius, duration reduced to 41, plus 5 power cost. So that's interesting. Duration reduced, and it's a lot more expensive, but it has a radius now. So Skitterleap used to just be, you just use it on a dude, and that dude would be invisible. Now, no, you can hide your army with it. So that's pretty cool. So Skitterleap upgraded. Now, yeah, there we go. Duration, again, reduced, but I mean, 82 seconds is ludicrous to have to load, like, a whole army hidden. Well, not a whole army, anything you can fit in a 40-meter radius. So that's really cool. And it is more expensive, though, because obviously a radius is way more powerful. But you're way more likely to actually want to try that, you know? I think Skitterleap could actually be how you defeat, what's it called? Actually, no, you can do the 2 assassins. I'm trying to think how to deal with Vampire Coast, basically, with Skaven, because it's really tough. Because they can shoot at your lord with cannons, you need an invisible lord. So maybe just go with Tretch. But then you want Leopoldicus to kill their lords nice and heroes nice and quickly. So it's tough. It's tough. But anyway, that has a use. I think this might be very useful. But if it's too expensive, then you're not going to have enough Winds of Magic at the start of every battle, because the amount of starting magic is random. So, you know, anyway. Same thing with Night Shroud. So, 40 radius, and things have been upped and reduced and all the rest of it. So, Night Shroud and Skitterleap both behave basically the same. Which makes sense, I guess. You know, they do the same thing, make them the same cost, just, yeah. Edbutt is now cheaper. Good, because Edbutt, I never use it. It's just a bit crap. Brain Burst is better. But now Edbutt might be, I think, the same price? Huh, I'm not sure. So, Edbutt being Big War. It's not Little War, is it? No, it's Big War. Lore Magic. Anyway, Daith's Sword, so Sword of Daith. Added max 2 uses. Oh no! Oh, but at least it has a bigger range. So Durthu can't just sit and tank and kill everything with the Sword of Daith forever anymore, which sucks, because I love doing that. It's so fun. Anyway, Sneaky Stabbing reduced the wind-up time to 1. What? I mean, wind-up time. It's been reduced to 1, but it was, I don't know, whatever. There's a wind-up time, apparently. Which was higher? I don't know. Sneaky Stabbing used to be active all the time, as far as I could tell. It was a bit nuts. Gaze of Malice. So, that's Malekith's stare, I suppose. Changed to an uncommon ability. Max 3 uses. Interesting. Cost increased to 152. Recharge time changed to 90. So I guess that makes sense. You could use that a lot, and it would actually add up a heck of a lot. You could get some really good damage into things with the Gaze of Malice. So yeah, having max use on that, I think, is fair. Jaf's Incantation of Cursed Blades is cheaper, interesting, and upgraded it's cheaper too, so I'm pretty sure this is the one if you overcast it. Again, because I barely play Tomb Kings, because I just can't get on playing them. That is the one you overcast, and it adds, what's it called? The anti-large bonus, I believe. So yeah, that's just weapon damage and armor-piercing damage, and that adds, yeah, anti-large as well. So it's kind of nice, you know, good in certain situations. I like that. So a bit cheaper. Sakmet's Incantation of the Skullstorm is a bit cheaper now. I mean, those vortexes, Vortex is so unreliable that it's very rare. You're going to waste so much Winds of Magic to use them, so them being a bit cheaper is definitely worthwhile. The Gaze of Nagash, Gaze of Nagash has better accuracy. Good, because it could miss so much, so badly. I've heard tales of it missing a mammoth who was stood still, which is hilarious. So, yeah, should be better now if it can actually hit things. And Shem's Burning Gaze, apparently the same problem. So, Invictive Glare And Gaze of Mork. Okay, so basically, all of the magic missile spells that were stupid aren't stupid anymore. That's what all this means. So, yeah, they're all going to do good. So, yeah, we can start staring at things again and missiling things magically. So, that's it. That's it. That's all the patch notes. And, yeah, join the discussion in my comment section. That's right, I'm using their website against, well, not against them, just for me. So, yeah, that's this has been a lot. We've gone over all of this. I've been recording, I think, for like 2.5 hours now. So, yeah, crazy. It's too much. Too much stuff. But it's amazing, right? The amount of stuff they've changed is superb this time around. And, I mean, this doesn't even mention anything about vampire coats, all that stuff added. A lot has changed, a lot has been added. It's all very, very promising. So, guys, I guess as I just scroll through here aimlessly, so, you know, it looks more exciting, I'm going to bid you guys adieu. So, yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this, please do comment, like, and subscribe, and be sure to discuss anything that I clearly misunderstood or got wrong in the comments, because it has been a long, long day. So guys, yeah, like I said, comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day, guys.